Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great because for the first time in a few months now, we finally get to talk about Saltiest Gaming again. Now, Saltiest has been gone for the past 3 to 4 months now, and to be fair, it was for legitimately personal reasons. Although I have to call into question how truthful he was about those reasons, considering his original community post talking about it has now been deleted. But anyway, whether he was truthful or not, he was gone for a few months and now he's back. Unfortunately, he hasn't made any new videos, probably because he's a PlayStation news channel and pretty much nothing has been happening on that side. But he has been coping and malding about Starfield on Twitter, and the best way I can describe it is he's just getting really desperate. Hell, I might actually put that in the title of the video. And you guys will see what I mean here in a minute. But for those of you who haven't been following Salt content for a while, you might not know what Saltiest is like. So you know what? I'll show you. This tweet was made just the other day after it was announced that Xbox would be getting their own platinum trophy type thing like PlayStation. And Saltiest decided to tweet this out. Microsoft is interested in bringing trophy-like platinum achievements. Of course they are. They don't create, they copy and steal. And then of course he puts the Steve Jobs quote, which he loves to use, where he says that Microsoft isn't original. And a bunch of people were pointing this out in the replies, but dude, do you know who invented achievements for consoles? That's right, it was the Xbox 360. That was the first ever console to have achievements, and then PlayStation added achievements later. Or trophies, whatever you want to say, same thing. So God forbid Xbox adds a platinum trophy-like thing to their achievements, because that would just be them copying and stealing from PlayStation, even though by your logic, PlayStation stole the entire concept of achievements from them. But yeah, that should give you a pretty good idea of what we're dealing with here. So yeah, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the first tweet. Oh, and also just note, if these are out of order, I just kind of grabbed the screenshots as I saw them. So yeah, no particular order to these. Not like it matters, they're all equally stupid. What's the difference between these two games? And then a screenshot of Starfield and a screenshot of Fallout 76. Well, good sir, the difference is Starfield didn't launch as complete garbage. Fallout 76 did, and then it got better over time. If you wanted this to be a fair comparison, we'd have to look at Fallout 76's score back when it came out. And I would say that that 52 Metacritic score and that 2.8 user score is much worse than Starfield's. Fallout 76 has taken 5 years to get to the point where it is now. Starfield launched like this, and it's only going to continue to get better because as of recording this, they've announced that they've heard the feedback and there's going to be tons of updates coming soon, including an FOV slider, performance fixes, DLSS, and more. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously those should have been in the game at launch. I'm not defending that, but I am saying it's nice that they're listening, and so quickly as well. Starfield has finally achieved that Xbox Gold standard of quality, and then it's the same screenshot of Starfield with the 73%. Well, by this logic, let's go ahead and check God of War Ragnarok's score. Oh wait, it's not on Steam. Okay, we can't check that. Let's go check the user score on the PlayStation Store. Oh, what's that? You can't see reviews on the PlayStation Store? Alright, I guess we'll have to check Metacritic. That's the only place we can look. Oh, well look at that. The critic score looks pretty good, but that user score is looking a little sus. Only a 7.9. Man, the gold standard of PlayStation is pathetic. You see what I mean? Review scores should not be the end-all be-all. It should be your own personal experience. I mean, hell, look at Ragnarok again. It got a 7.9 on Metacritic, but you said it's your favorite game of all time. But of course, you won't bring up user scores for that. You'll only bring it up for Xbox games that at the time of this tweet you hadn't even played yet. But anyway, let's continue on. Since there's no bugs in Starfield, I wonder what the creative decision was to put this in the game. Obviously, anybody who said there's no bugs in the game is completely lying, but I don't think this is necessarily a bad bug. I think a lot of people will appreciate that one, actually. You know what? No, it's not a bug, it is a feature. Bethesda knows what the people want. Now all they need to do is let us go to that character's first-person perspective. I'm sorry. Anyway, continuing on. After Xbox announced 6 million players ate a sandwich in Starfield, sales now magically don't matter to Xbox fanboys anymore. Since that's the case, I got a graphic for y'all that proves that Astro's Playroom is greater than Starfield. Numbers don't lie. We are reaching levels of stupidity that, admittedly, I've probably seen this before, but I don't remember seeing them. Let's compare the player count of a game that comes pre-installed with your console to a game that doesn't, and you either have to buy Game Pass or pay full price for it. Man, who would have thought? The console has sold over 40 million units. The game comes pre-installed with the console. Therefore, the game has 40 million players. Wow, who could have seen that one coming? I mean, I guess by this logic, God of War Ragnarok is worse than Astro's Playroom. I mean, that game only sold, what, like 5 million copies in the first week. Meanwhile, Astro's Playroom, at the time at least, had at least like 30 million copies. Man, God of War Ragnarok must suck. Dude, you should know by now that sales do not reflect the quality of a game. If that was the case, then Call of Duty is the greatest game ever made. And we all know that that ain't the case. Anyway, next. Now, admittedly, this one doesn't have to do with Starfield, but I just had to include it. It's over for Xbox now. Roblox is coming to the PS5. Ah, yes, the only thing keeping Xbox alive was Roblox. Now everybody will sell their Series X's and move over to the PlayStation. But it's just hilarious to me. How many times has it been over for Xbox? I mean, at least a dozen at this point, right? And yet, what do you know? They're still here and they're still kicking. How can this guy take himself seriously? Surely he doesn't. There's no possible way you could tweet something like this and be serious. This had to have been a troll tweet, surely. Who knows though? Maybe that's just me coping. Maybe I just have too much faith in Saltiest. Is an 85 on Metacritic for Starfield Game of the Generation material? Well, Game of the Generation is completely subjective. As far as I know, there's no award for Game of the Generation, right? And look, obviously Game of the Year is also subjective, but at least there's actually an award for that. Just because a game has an 85 doesn't mean it can't be somebody's personal Game of the Generation. Now, do I think Starfield is Game of the Generation? No, absolutely not. So far, that's gotta go to either Elden Ring or Baldur's Gate 3. And to be completely honest, I don't know if we'll see a game for at least the next year or two that can even come close to those games. Starfield doesn't. I doubt Spider-Man 2 will. I'm sure there's gonna be people who say God of War Ragnarok. But then again, any game can be Game of the Generation. That's a personal thing. Review scores shouldn't matter for that. Hell, you could say a game like Redfall is Game of the Generation. Now, I would question your sanity if you said that, but you could say that. I swear to God, these guys cling to Metacritic scores like they're a newborn baby animal clinging to their mother. And I'm sure somebody's gonna say, oh, well, dude, you're a hypocrite. In your previous Starfield videos, you brought up Metacritic scores on games like Spider-Man and Ghost of Tsushima. And my response to that is, you're right, I did do that, but only because other people were bringing up scores. And I was trying to prove how stupid their points were. I brought up the scores to destroy the point about the scores. So yeah, anyway, let's continue on here. Imagine how low the score would be if this game had 120 reviews like PlayStation big games. Again, I have to ask, what is this obsession with review scores? Why do you care so much? The only score that should matter to you is the one that you give it. Although, once again, I don't think he had even played the game at this point, so it's not like he really had an opinion to give on it. At least not a valid one. But I just love how desperate he's getting. It's like, oh yeah, the reviews are good, but imagine if it had more. This dude is unironically now having to imagine the game having lower scores just to make his point seem valid. I mean, dude, you can have your little wet dreams about Starfield having lower scores, but that's not reality. Over 70 reviews were posted on each platform, and the game got in the mid-80s on both of them. Cope and seethe, but most importantly, stop putting so much emphasis on review scores. Before a game comes out, they're kind of a good tell to see whether or not the game will be good, but you can't ultimately make a final call on that until you play the game for yourself. Another one, Starfield given a 4 out of 10 by Jim Sterling from the Jimquisition. I said this the last time somebody brought up Jim Sterling, and I'll say it again. Jim is not the most reliable source out there. She's the one who had a mental breakdown over Hogwarts Legacy and said you're transphobic if you buy it. And again, I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record, but Saltiest will happily tweet about all these bad reviews without playing the game for himself, and on top of that, he ignores all the good reviews. Then again, this is the same guy who has to imagine a world where Starfield has more reviews, and all those other reviews are lower just to make his point. So I mean, what am I really expecting at this point? The Xbox playbook of smoke and mirrors and deception. We've seen it before. And then a screenshot of Starfield having 6 million players and a screenshot of Halo Infinite having 20 million. What is deceptive about that? That's just true. That's how many players the game has. Halo Infinite did have 20 million players. Now, obviously, the game took a nosedive because of the lack of updates, but the game did have 20 million players. Like, that's just a fact. What's deceptive is you saying that Astro's Playroom has 40 million players when it comes pre-installed with every PS5. That is deceptive. 6 million people buying or downloading Starfield off Game Pass and trying it out is not deceptive. That's just true. Halo Infinite having 20 million players was true. It's not like the game came pre-installed with every Xbox. If that was the case, then those numbers would be deceptive. But if you guys thought it's been bad up to this point, just wait until we get to this next one. If you've you've ever been on r/8 the Onion, I think you'll appreciate this next one. So Saltiest quote tweets an article saying Starfield only has 6 million players, and here's our article on why that's a disaster. And then he says, nah, you've gone too far, bro. 6 million sandwiches eaten. You stupid idiot, that was a troll article. In their own reply to that tweet, they said, obviously this is a joke. But this dude is so desperate for any negative news around Starfield, he'll unironically believe these obviously fake articles if it means someone is on his side. It's so pathetic. Imagine being so desperate to hate on something that you take a troll article as fact. As Buzz Lightyear once said, you are a sad, strange little man. But oh boy, here we go. Be prepared, your brains might die because of this next one. Can anyone prove that Starfield outsold the failure that was Fallout 76 in its first week? No, you can't, because all we're getting is smoke and mirrors politician speak from Xbox and Bethesda. Millions ate a sandwich in Starfield and it was record-breaking. Now you want to come at me with this Game Pass excuse. 6 million is only 5% of 120 they say they have in active users on Game Pass. That's not good. It's a fraction of what amount should be playing this game considering the hype. Obviously, nobody can prove that the game outsold Fallout 76, but with Game Pass, it obviously out-downloaded Fallout 76. As it said in the screenshot, Fallout 76 sold 1 million copies in its first week. Starfield got 6 million players in a day. So yes, nobody can prove that it sold 1 million copies, but Bethesda themselves said it's their most successful launch of a game ever. And also, why does it matter if it sold 1 million or if 1 million people downloaded it through Game Pass? Either way, the people who got the game were interested enough to try it out. And it's obvious, Microsoft doesn't care if you buy the game or get it through Game Pass, so why do you care if people buy it or get it through Game Pass? And on top of that, Game Pass does not have 120 million users, you idiot. They have like 30 million subscribers, but Xbox surpassed 120 million active users. That includes the Xbox One, and I'm pretty sure the PC app as well. And guess what? Starfield isn't on the Xbox One, so all those people aren't even gonna be able to play it. This point makes absolutely no sense. I mean, by this logic, God of War Ragnarok was a complete failure because it sold 5 million in the first week, but it was on PS4 and PS5, which at the time of the game's release collectively had like 150 million units sold or something like that. So yeah, I guess God of War Ragnarok was a complete failure, am I right? No, of course not. That's stupid. All right, we gotta move on. Holy crap. Alright, so here he's quote tweeting the Starfield tweet where they reached over 6 million players. And he says, and how many million booted up the game on Game Pass? Xbox loves to inflate and exaggerate these numbers. Where are the sales numbers compared to Fallout 4? Where are the refund numbers? Status quo for Xbox. Nothing to see. They said the same about Halo Infinite. Okay, for refund numbers, why the hell would a company tell people how many refunds their game has? Like, legitimately, why would any game do that? And again, I love the desperation. Over 6 million people? Oh, well, a bunch of them downloaded it through Game Pass, and also they're not telling us how many people refunded it. Yeah, no duh. Has any company ever said how many people have refunded their game? And again, what is this obsession with Game Pass versus purchasing the game? Why does it matter? Either way, the person who got the game was interested enough to invest in it and try it out. And also, in case you hadn't noticed, Xbox has been doing this thing for a while where they say how many people are playing it instead of how many sales there are, because a large chunk of the player base probably comes from Game Pass. Game Pass is such a core part of Xbox's ecosystem that keeping track of sales doesn't even make sense. They've just combined sales and Game Pass downloads into one statistic, which is players. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, Xbox doesn't care if you buy the game or download it through Game Pass. They just want you to do one of the two. Sales are a thing of the past for Xbox. And talking about the refunds thing, oh, well, why doesn't Sony tell us how many people refunded God of War? Oh, wait a second. That's right, you can't refund games on PlayStation unless it's Cyberpunk. My mistake. Anyway, moving on. I remember Xbox calling God of War Ragnarok a flop after it sold 5 million in 1 week on one platform. Fast forward to 2033, well, that's a typo, and Xbox is bragging about 1 million concurrent Starfield players, not 1 million sold. Fallout 4 sold 5 million in the first week, so which game is really a flop? Okay, first of all, all, who called Ragnarok a flop? Second of all, it wasn't just sold on the PS5, it was also on the PS4. And I just love how somehow 1 million concurrent players is a flop. Especially for a single player game, that's amazing. It's hilarious, he really thought he had an own right here. It's official, no matter what Xbox does, these guys will never give them credit and they'll never be satisfied. Which works for me, because then I could just keep farming content from it. Alrighty, we've only got 3 more to take a look at for the sake of my sanity, so here we go. Unfortunately, I saw this coming. Once you critic Xbox on any level, I think he meant to say critique, the psycho Xbox extremists try to get you canceled. This is embarrassing. Saltiest, I have a genuine question. Are you dumb? It was not Xbox extremists who tried to cancel her or get her fired. It was PlayStation fanboys. Somebody said she should be fired for promoting an Xbox game. But no, it's all the Xbox community's fault. Like, look, man, clearly after the whole situation where you tried to cancel Frit, we know you're not very smart. But come on, dude. I know you're the Fox News of PlayStation, but Jesus. Actual clownery going on right now. Thankfully, we only have 2 more. Here we go. Why did the Starfield player base only rise 7% on launch day for the game? You would think the majority of gamers would play on regular launch, not early access. 234,502 peak on Friday during early access, and 250,823 on release day. That number should be drastically higher. Well, first of all, if somebody bought the deluxe edition and was playing it for the 5 days before the game fully came out, there's a chance they may have beaten it in that amount of time. On top of that, there's a little thing called the Xbox app on PC. I guarantee a lot of people who waited for the game to come out fully got it with Game Pass, which again explains why they don't talk about sales and they talk about players. Not to mention, there's also the people who just bought it through the Xbox app, which if you're on PC, I don't know why you would do that when Steam's right there, but it's a possibility. And that's ignoring the fact that not everybody gets on a game at the exact same time. And what's even funnier about this tweet is a couple days after he made it, Starfield broke its record and hit like 330,000 players on Steam. That's concurrently, by the way. And even now, it's still in the top 5 most played Steam games. But we can't say anything positive about the game because it's an Xbox game. Alrighty, final tweet. Here we are. Not long ago, an 86 was considered a flop by Xbox fans. And then he shows a screenshot of Returnal's review scores on Metacritic. Which, no, dude, people did not call Returnal a flop because of the Metacritic score. People called it a flop because even to this day, I'm not sure if it even broke 1 million sales. That's on PC and PS5 combined. Then again, I don't know that for a fact, so take that with a grain of salt. Although it's interesting, after doing some research, it looks like it sold less than 1 million copies, but it doesn't look like they considered it a failure. So who knows, maybe I'll look into this a little bit more. I'm actually kind of intrigued now. And if you guys have any information, be sure to let me know. But yeah, anyway guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully your brains are still somewhat intact after all that, but if they're not, then I guess I apologize, but it's also not my fault. So yeah, anyway, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will catch you all next time.